Hey, my name is Emilio, and today I'm going to talk to you about the end of the World War II, referring to the victorious nations of the new world geopolitical order. Also, I will explain the details of the bipolarity of the international relations between the United States and the Soviet Union. So first, let's begin explaining what's the D-Day. It refers to June 6, 1944, which was the day of the Normandy landings occurred during World War II, considered one of the most brutal wars in history, along with Vietnam and Stalingrad. It marked the beginning of the liberation of Western Europe from Nazi occupation. This considered of a landing of the American, British, and Canadian allied force to take the beaches of Normandy in France. This was the beginning of the end of the Germans' occupations in Europe. There was a very elaborate operation where the Allied army had to go through minefields on the beaches and face the extreme water in that place. The Allied army had some difficulties in taking the beaches of Utah. Omaha, Gold, Juno, and Sword. However, they were stronger than the German army due to some communication problems between them until they could gain a firm foothold on these beaches. Hitler never wanted to send forces to this raid since he has the fixed idea that the strongest invasion would come on a beach in the northwest of France, the city of Calais, an error that could cost the Nazi army a large part of the French territory, and starting with the end of this army. Once the army was weakened due to the liberation of multiple countries in Europe, such as France and Italy, which were key points for the Nazi army, and it was incredibly destroyed. It was until Benito Mussolini was shot and Adolf Hitler committed suicide, when Nazi Germany definitely surrendered. In February 11, 1945, the leaders of the three major Allied powers, the United States, the United Kingdom, and the Soviet Union, met in the city of Yalta, in Crimea. At this conference, they discussed the terms for German surrender and agreed to divide Germany into occupations zones. On July 15 to August 1945, the Potsdam Conference was held after the surrender of Germany in order to discuss the occupation and the future of Germany and make decisions about the surrender of Japan. The conference revealed growing tensions between the United States and the Soviet Union. Now there was only one loose end missing: Japan. United States on August 6 and 9, 1945, the Second World War II ended with two bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, ending Kyoto's empire, generating the world's largest massacre of civilians into devastated cities and with the exaggeration of unnecessary losses and substance crisis. So, what happened after Nazi Germany was defeated? One of these consequences that is the this war generated was the Cold War, and he had mentioned previously the United States and the Soviet Union began to generate a certain conflict between them. The capitalism Western Bloc and the communist Eastern Bloc, led by the United States and the Soviet Union, began with the Cold War. This is called that because they never had direct contact in weapons. There were no direct bombings or fights between armed armies, and well, this war main cause was due to ideologies, politics, economic, social, and strongest point, the racketeering in this. It refers to this bipolarity between sides because these two quadrants were on the same side to end the Nazi army, and subsequently their objectives become very different from each other, generating a Cold War. For next, I'm going to do some interviews to people who care. Two of them are my friends, and one of them are my grandmother. So let's start. So now I'm with my partner Sebastian. And well, I want to tell you, how do you define the capitalism and the communism?
Well, hello everybody. Hello. before all of it. For me, in simple words, capitalism is like an economic system where the individuals and businesses can make their own property, have their own property, make and sell products or services, and try to make money from their own efforts. It's also based on the idea of competition and profit. As the marketing, people and companies aim to create things that other wants to buy. So they hope to earn money that it costs to make those things. Also, capitalism, the government usually isn't regulating these activities. Well, it's regulating, but not um, in that way as communism does. People have the freedom to choose what they want to buy, what they want to do with their own money. And in communism, it's an economic and political system where the government or the community has the control as one in the industry, resources, and services. The goal of the communism is to reduce the economic inequality and ensure that the resources are distributed more equally among the people in the communism system. There is more government involvement in the economy and services. Like we know that education, healthcare, every every services, and sometimes the business are often heavily regulated by them. And the aim is to prioritize the well-being of in the entire society instead of the individual, like in capitalism, and allowing the wealth of the resources and to be concentrated in the hands of people or private companies.
Okay, so that's everything. Thank you so much. So now we have Alon Hernandez, that is my friend. So can you give me some definitions of capitalism and communism?
Yes, well, hello. As you say, I'm Alondra. So, what about capitalism? I think that capitalism is an economic system and politic that it makes the production or distribution from the properties that it's more private. So, for example, you have a market, no, and the state doesn't have like a real control of your gains in economic ways. Instead of the communism that is more like equality for all of the population, and they do control that part, and they try to find that you have to have the same payment as, I don't know, your friend and that kind of things.
Okay, so well, I think that it's all. Thank you so much. Okay, so next I'm with my grandmother, Ana Cecilia, and now I want to tell you that what is do you think about communism and capitalism?
In my opinion, capitalism is the engine that moves the world's economy. Knowing that by investing in a company, economic benefits will be obtained both for the businessman and the worker is an incentive to carry it out, since it is difficult for anyone to invest not only their economic resources, but also their time, their dedication, and even their passion in a company that is not economically sustainable, since you have to live on something. And communists, also always there will be different ways of looking at things. For some, capitalism has been the origin of economic inequalities, and some have managed to obtain great wealth, while others lack the most basic things to live. Thus, romantically of thinking, it has been thought that communism will be the way in which the economic balance will be balanced. But it's already been shown that nothing could be farther from the truth, since the countries that have adopted this regimen has cost them a lot of work to survive, since there is no private investment. There are no companies that provide work for everyone, and therefore they also reach poverty, or its inhabitants are a kind of slaves of the government, working hard without really making a profit as they would like. More or less.
Well, let's start with my opinion. I want to be the more neutral possible, but this is a difficult topic to talk without the neutrality, but I will try. For the capitalism have some good things. The liberty that you can be a businessman uh, without the interference of the government. Well, this you can see that there are a lot of innovation, people that want to be to continue increasing in our society, but this increasing could be some dangerous because the poor could be so pure and the rich could be so rich. So there are like mm, the way of the repertory in our society. It is not the most great. Well, the communism. The problem with the communism that I see is that there are not like this motivation. There are not like the part you can improve in our society to get a lot of this work that can be functional in some way. And in this government, there are like two uh, dangerous because the governmentsmen and the dictators, there are ones always the power because they think that if someone have it, uh, they can do the best of this society. In the communism, this is the problem. The people who governments always want to be that power.